We are live. What is up? Welcome back, everybody. How are y'all doing? Welcome back to my channel. I'm James Jackson. If this is your first time here, I am a filmmaker out here in the greater part of Philadelphia. I do DP work as well as I am a colorist, and I also am certified to teach and train people on DaVinci Resolve as well. But here on this YouTube channel, I'm just simply a guy who loves filmmaking, loves talking about film gear and news around film gear, but also just the art of filmmaking. So hopefully you guys are here to have a good time. And if you do have a good time, definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button. So yes, as the title suggests, one, we got to talk about, I'm going to briefly talk about the FX5. I actually was hoping to have the video that I'm give my initial thoughts about the FX5 out, but um, just there's a lot of things happening, and there's continues a lot of things happening. So it should be out by tomorrow. So, but I'm gonna still give a little tease of what to expect with that video tomorrow. There's a couple news stories we're gonna cover, but of course the big thing that I've talked about is with the announcement of the FX5, with a lot of its features with open gate, internal raw recording, and also at the price point that is asked. I've been asked quite a bit about comparing it to my love and my favorite camera right now, which is the Pyxis 12K. My favorite camera to own, I should say. The favorite camera that I own right now. Come back, autofocus. Thank you. So today that's what we're going to be talking about today, and I'm going to sort of go in reasons to go with an FX5, but also reasons to go with a Pyxis 12K because there's a lot of things that the FX5 does better. There's also quite a few things that I feel the Pyxis 12K is better at. So hopefully this is a discussion, a conversation that you guys can learn. Sort of figure if you guys are sort of exploring between these two, maybe this could help. But let's quickly go into some of the comments. Banana Breadmon, saw your comment. You were asking in terms of the, I guess, SSD options with monitor through USB-C. Saw those three comments. So from what I recall, there is no SSD external recording options. You can't record to SSDs. And quite frankly, given the read write speeds and also just I look, if you're new to my channel, you guys know I am not a big proponent of using SSDs, and I haven't been even all the way back to the Pocket 4K days. I'm not a fan of it. So I would never recommend anybody using SSDs. But even if I was, you can't do it. And I don't believe you can record to an external monitor, kind of similar to how you can with the Pyxis 12K. Uh, Having said that, I do know for a fact that with the with your smartphone or with your phone, if you use either the Sony app, which is Monitor Control, or if you use the app that I love using, which is Monitor Plus, if you connect a USB, you can connect a USB-C to the phone through your camera, and it will dramatically decrease the latency and increase the response time. And meaning like the response time will get faster. I've used that I use that quite a bit. So that in terms of monitoring, that is an option where you can go through one of those applications. So hopefully that answered your question, man. Hey, Image by Michael, what's up, man? Yes, I agree, man. I cannot wait for Gen 6. And hopefully autofocus comes to the Pixel 12K soon. By the way, guys, how are you guys feeling about this? I'm kind of wanted to go with a more of a moody environment. Also, I haven't fully haven't fully settled all the gear that I used for this long shoot trip that I did. So I kind of redesigned it to where I to go with more of a softer but also a little bit more moody look. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Academy Masterclass is Pixel 12K again. Dennis, what's up? What's up? What's up? first affordable Sony camera I am actually interested in since the EX1. Wow, you've been waiting a long time, man. Two different beats, but it creates a nice segue for those who wanted this extra features that a true cinema camera has. Uh, uh, those. Oh, those. Okay, gotcha. Jones, thank you for joining, and thank you for the comments. So yes, yeah, definitely. So let's not waste time. I want to get some of these news out of the way. There's some things that I didn't that I heard about that I didn't get a chance to cover before. The first one that I really want to just cover is ARRI sold off its rental arm. Uh, this was a couple weeks back, actually. So let's go to new shooters real quick. So, as the article suggests, ARRI sells off its global's rentals activities in Europe, the UK, and North America. So the article goes as followed. Uh, in a very interesting move, ARRI has entered into an agreement to sell its global rental activities in Europe, the UK, and in North America to H2 Equity Partners, which is a hedge fund, which is a form of a hedge fund, as part of a management buyout led by existing ARRI rental leadership. And also, just in case if you guys forgot, ARRI was also, the company ARRI was sold to a German broadcast company back. This was like back in April when NAB was around. So now they're starting to sell off the rental property as well. Illumination Dynamics will remain part of ARRI and is not included in the transaction. um, for ARRI, this divestiture is said to be planned in significant elements of the company's long-term strategic development. A key rationale for transaction is to resolve a structural conflict of interest between ARRI's manufacturing business and its own rental business. As a manufacturer of camera and lighting technology, ARRI supplies customers and partners worldwide, some of whom compete with its rental activities. Basically, there's a long standing that eh, because ARRI cameras are also used in rental houses, ARRI having their own rental house kind of competes against rental houses. And the article continues on, so you can learn more about that in H2 Equity Partners. So definitely check it out. It's a good read. Um, quick take for me on this. Uh, it is going to be interesting. I get that they sold off the rental arm. I really am curious of how this is going to affect certain cameras, particularly their their medium format 65 millimeter cameras, particularly the Alexa 65 and the Alexa 265. Because unlike all their other cameras, those two cameras were exclusively only through their rental arm. You couldn't buy those ARRI cameras. So I I I I'm curious to see how those cameras are going to be. And I'm I get that ARRI themselves don't want to compete with that, but it does it. I am not sure how I feel about a hedge fund now in control of the rental arm, or at least their global rental business. So we still need to see how the fallout of this is. But I'm curious to know what you guys is. I think it's sort of again a sad thing to see it go, but we knew this summer things were going to change once ARRI's was sold off to another company. So I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. This or do you feel anything at all? Are you guys curious about it? I would love to know. So definitely leave your comments and let me know. Uh, the lighting is cool, cool, awesome, awesome. Have you heard if the 12K might get autofocus? Um, so I let's yeah. So it might get off. Yes, the rumor is that it might get off. Well, it's not a rumor. It's actually not a rumor. Blackmagic themselves have said uh, there is a possibility that the Pyxis 12K and the Ursa Cine 12K will get autofocus, but it's a bit more complicated than that. So the TLDR of it is, and by the way, again, this is not some rumors fight. This is literally out of the mouth of a team member of Blackmagic in an interview that happened all the way back in NAB. But the TLDR of it is the Pyxis 12K and the Ursa Cine 12K both have the AI chips in the cameras that would be responsible of enabling face detection autofocus. I know face detection autofocus is a sensor focus thing, but their continuous autofocus that they've implemented in the Cinema Camera 6K and the Pyxis 6K is also the same technology that is in the Pyxis 12K and the Ursa Cine 12K, and I even believe it's in the Ursa Cine 17K. The issue is that they're not sure the quality of that autofocus performance on an RGBW sensor. So what they said is that once the Pyxis 6K and the Cinema Camera 6K have fully rolled out and are fully out of beta in public, technically right now the Cinema Camera 6K is still in beta, while the Pyxis 6K is fully out. But once that is done, they are going to do their best to try to implement face detection autofocus in the Pyxis 12K. But they haven't promised that it will actually happen. They promise that they will try, but they're not given a guarantee that it's actually coming. So I know it says a TLDR, but that's basically the gist of what you're asking, man. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it is. Again, let me stress this. Blackmagic says they're going to try to implement it. They haven't guaranteed that it will implement. Gen 6 is definitely coming. It's not Gen 6 is not a rumor. Like Gen 6 was announced during Grant's NAB stream. That's when Gen 6 is coming. It is an actual guarantee, and they've even talked about multiple times that Gen 6 is coming. But the autofocus, they're working on it. They promise to work on it, but they're not guaranteeing that it's come. So before someone comes out and says Pyxis 12A is going to get autofocus, it's not guaranteed, but they are going to try, and it is possible, but it's not guaranteed. So there's that. So and then the last thing, I mean, really the only thing everybody else has been talking about has been the FX5, and it's been the talk of it's been the talk about it. Um, Before I give into my thoughts, there is an interview that came out, I believe today, actually. Yes, it came out today by Cine D. And they sat down with two team members of Sony and discussed the FX5 and sort of getting sort of the behind the scenes about it. And there was some interesting information that came out of this interview. So, including some hints at things regarding the FX3 as well as other cameras. So let's go into that really quickly. So they have the interview actually on YouTube, but they also have on the article online as well. So let's read this really quickly. So they sat down with I'm gonna butcher this. I'm just the whole thing. So I'm gonna say Roiji. Hopefully I'm just gonna say Roiji, who and Takuro. So they sat down with them to discuss both from a strategic conversation as well as a technical conversation. Um, but here's some of the interesting things that came out of this interview that I find fascinating. The first one is the fact is why they made the FX5. And essentially their answer, and this is in this part, is that, well, they honestly, when they put out the FX3, even though they technically put it on their cinema line of cameras, they actually didn't expect the FX3 to blow up and be as big and be used on major production sets. They just, I guess they always thought it was just going to be more of a corporate, maybe a corporate at best, maybe something like a doc thing. But it became big on so many different projects. Obviously, the creator being one of them. So and so many DPs started using that. So basically after that, they basically did to a lot of workshops and sort of tested a lot of, talked to a lot of DPs and sort of what they were looking for, and hence the FX5. The other thing is this, they talked about is why. So if you guys are familiar, there's been talk about firmware version 2 and that it's going to bring 5K 120 frames per second in RAW and 4K 240 frames a second in 4K. And by the way, that 120 frames per second in RAW is also going to be an open gate. There's also talk about an H.265 version of open gate, which is the one I'm most excited about. But of course, one of the things that kind of took us aback was that we gotta wait a year, over a year. It's because technically it's still July, so we gotta wait 13 months at least. At least it could be longer, but at the very least, we gotta wait 13 months before we see version 2. And so they kind of asked them why the long wait, and basically, let's read the answer before I sort of get. He frames. He, so basically, he pointed to testing and workflow validations rather than development time, saying Sony wants customers to be able to use their features safely and comfortably across a wide range of conditions, and that the company evaluates the whole workflow, not just the act of recording. He also framed the announcement itself as a response to a long-standing request. Users keep asking Sony for a roadmap, so this time the company published one. Now, I'm kind of like, look, I think there's some truth to it, but I also think it's kind of like a dodge as well. Like, yes, we asked for a roadmap, but typically a roadmap means that there's usually a plan in different increments of times, like months, within months or something like that, not a whole year. And also, I get the safety part and making sure it's like they want to make sure that the features are safety and comfortably, because Sony does have a history of some things kind of their cameras kind of getting bricked sometimes with their firmware updates. So I get double check it and make sure it's right, but does it really take a year for that to happen? So I'm kind of half buying it. I think there is some truth to it, but I also think there's more to it that they're not actually mentioning. Um, but here's where things kind of get interesting. So Cindy D asked, "Will we see XOCN C1 and C2 in other Sony cameras?" And the TLDR basically said he's like, um, he can't say. Basically, the TLDR is he can't say what cameras will do it, but he also didn't say it's not coming to any other cameras. So it basically, and there's also, when we get to, if we scroll a little bit further down, there was a question about where is it? Right here, the FX3. When we get to the FX3, it kind of that also kind of hits that. Let's actually read this part first. The philosophy explains why the FX3 will continue to be solid in parallel with the FX5. When we pointed out that the sizable gap between the two, Ima argued that Ima-san argued that Sony does not really recognize the FX3 as an aging camera because the annual software updates have kept making it better, and that work will continue. Let me say that part again. The annual software updates have kept making it better, and that work will continue. There is still a place for it in the lineup, and there will still be customers who prefer it, even with the FX5 on the shelf. I don't know about you guys, but to me, that sounds like they may bring XOCN RAW to the FX3. And the fact is, like, these annual software updates. So it's like, why make this a year? My guess is, and this was kind of what my thought was when they announced the FX5 and all of a sudden version 2 was coming like a year or so later. This was what I predicted, which was that I have a feeling they're going to release the FX5. They're going to get in their hands, and then people are and then after it's been on the shelves and you get the success, Sony's going to drop some of these features on the FX3. And and maybe even some of the other cameras like the FX30 or FX2. And this kind of, even though it's not a definitive thing, they're not definitively saying this, but this kind of leans into the fact that we may actually see Open Gate and XOC in RAW. Some of these features that we're seeing in the FX5, we might actually see it in the FX3. And again, I want to go back to this. I want to go back to this part right here, where it says, Iman-san argued that Sony does not really recognize the FX3 as an aging camera because the annual software updates have kept making it better, and that work will continue. That, to me, tells me that that work will continue. They're still planning to update the FX3. And to me, I think they're waiting for the year to bring H.265 Open Gate because they're then going to roll that out to the FX3. They then are going to roll that out to the FX6 as well as the FX6. And I think we may even get XOC in RAW. So, for those of you that maybe, look, if you guys are still for those of you that are like already pre-ordering your FX5s and thinking about putting your Sonys on eBay, look, I can't tell you what you do. I'm just saying is, if it is possible that Sony FX3 gets XOC in RAW and Open Gate, even if it's not the full RAW Open Gate, but just H.265 Open Gate, if the FX3 gets that, would you hold on? If you are an FX3 owner or if you're looking at an FX3, would you hold on to that? Or would you still like sell it and look to get the FX5? I would love to know what you guys think. I think that is the thing, and that's one of the things that's got me really, really excited. So let's go to the chat and see what you guys think about this. Let's see here. So that's H.265 Open Gate, hopefully 25 or 30p as well. Yeah, I agree. I hope that we get 60. Hopefully it's H.265 60 frames a second. Because look, if you can get, I don't know sort of limitations with HEVC, but if you can get 60 frames per second in RAW, I would be shocked if you can't get 60 frames per second in HEVC. But again, I also don't know the limitations of the codec. Yes, yeah, Gabriel, what's up, man? Good to see you. Yes, Gen 6 is coming. We all can't wait. Okay, maybe getting 2. Not, so you don't think it's gonna happen? So Michael, you don't think it's gonna happen? All right, look, it's not gonna happen. But that article, the way it is written, sort of implies that they are not done with the FX3. That they're going to continue firmware update. It's not going anywhere. Again, a year is a long time to wait. They may change their. Sony can always change their mind and just discontinue the FX3. In that case, yes. But if that article, if the words from that article holds true, I think it's possible that we'll see like XOCN and Open Gate in the FX3. I think the downside of all that is that we probably are going to still see the prices of the FX3 go up. Like 10 years later, the FX3 is still going to be more expensive than it was at launch. FX3, yes, I agree. It would make it very interesting. I think it will be. I think that a lot of people, honestly, I think if the FX3 gets Open Gate and XOCN, I think a lot of people would hold off on basically fully upgrading to the FX5. I think certain things are just going to be, but there's a lot of things like the triple base ISO, the ergonomics with the articulating screen, and then you got the EVF. I think workflow people that may want to have a certain way of shooting may still prefer the FX5, but if they can continue to prolong the longevity of the FX3, that's great. Canon has yet to give the R5 and R1 open gate. Yeah, yeah, no, it's true. Um, but to me, the R5, I guess for me, the R5 is kind of in this weird. Both the R5 and the R1 are kind of this weird state. More so the R5 than the R1, because the R1 has always been like a flagship photography, speed photography camera. That's always been the brand butter of the R1 series, and that so I don't really think it really affects it. I don't think open gate is really that big of a deal because there's is a certain demographic for the R1. The R5 is a different story because that camera was sort of the line, the length of which the videos. It's kind of, to me, the R5 is in that weird state like the A7S3, where now you got cameras like the R6V, you got the C50 that are out that are far more video oriented than than those cameras in different ways. I have this sneaking suspicion that I feel like it's going to be the same way with sort of like the A7S series of cameras. I think the R5 series is probably going to maybe not fizzle out, but they're not going to put as much energy and research, R&D into continuing the development of that line. I think they're going to focus more on different other things that are more photography based, and I think they're going to really follow what they did with the R6V and the C50, sort of with their more video oriented cameras. You're more okay. More curious for an A7C3 with A75 tech. I get that. I get that, and like that. I mean, the A7C3 and all those cameras, they're really sort of like designed to be like small, compact content creators. So yeah, I could definitely get the gist of that. All right, I think that's all for the comments for right now. Let's So I'm going to quickly just give my thoughts again. I'll have the video will be out tomorrow morning. So you guys definitely check the video out where I give my full thoughts on the Sony FX5. But the gist of my feelings are, because I really wanted to take my time with it, because the thing I really got upset about, well, I won't say upset, I was frustrated with the announcement was just the bombardment of videos of influencers and just this sheer like push to FOMO everybody into buying it. It is an exciting camera, and I want to make this very clear. It is. I think the Sony FX5 is in a very unique a very unique elite or high end level of cameras, or really high quality level of camera. And I think it ticks so many boxes. But I also felt like, especially with a lot of the YouTubers, not necessarily saying you have to buy it or you should buy it, but more of like, I'm buying 5 of these, or I'm getting 2 of these, I'm getting 3 of these. And look, they all have the money and they have the means and they have the workflow and the investment to make sense of that. But I know there's quite a few people, and so I don't know if it may be some of you guys that have been watching me right now, that it's like one FX5 is a serious investment, just like, a Pyxis 12K is a serious investment. So I really take caution for you guys, and I feel like it's a responsibility on us YouTubers that we shouldn't try to like push people into things. And and that's what I felt throughout the initial day when it was announced. It's literally, hell, we got Gerald Undone coming out of retirement just to give us dynamic range and rolling shutter tests and talks about this camera. We had and literally everybody that's sort of over. It was just a bombardment, and it felt disgusting. Anyways, I digress. I wanted to say that, so I wanted to give myself some time to really think about it and have a clear level head. And overall, I think this camera has a really good argument for certain people to be the the best at the very or at the very least one of the best cameras that you can get for under $10,000. I mean, there's just a lot of things that this camera takes it takes itself off. Um, Obviously, we got the open gate and the raw, but it's also just like this is a camera that feels like Sony listened. Like all the complaints that we have and all the things that we wanted to see in a Sony camera, we for the most part got it. Um, it's just but given the time frame of where we are now, where there's so many mirrorless cameras that are capable of doing very specific things or that are really good at targeting very specific niches or sectors of the filmmaking market, at the price point that this camera is at, it's justifiable. It does, let me make that clear. It's justifiable, but I also feel like depending on what you're doing, it's going to be there may be some more affordable options that are definitely not as feature rich as the FX5, but they will do the job you need them to do at a much lower price. And in certain areas, especially I'll guess I'll kind of sort of tease in, I guess, comparing the Pyxis 12K. I feel like the FX5 is the best B camera that of any brand. It is the best B camera on the market. And that may sound like a backhanded compliment. It's not. It's because in my opinion, B cameras, the best B cameras are cameras that can be A cameras for certain scenarios. And that is literally to me what the FX5 is. But there's also certain production things that it's missing. So I think the FX5 is going to be great if you are in sports or if you're in if you're doing sports, if you're in the sports filmmaking, or if you're dealing with athletes and or very extreme sports or really fast paced things. The FX5 is to me the gold standard for that market because of its amazing rolling shutter performance, because of its solid latitude performance, the good quality of the triple base ISO, and also the control you have with the noise reduction, and and along with the dual gain sport, there's just it's this. It feels like it's designed for that. Like if you were if you were doing it for a team, an NBA team or an NFL team, or covering or specific players, I think this is like going to be the number one camera in that area. And well, you're gonna have to find out tomorrow for the rest of my thoughts, and I'll just leave it at that. So let's talk. Let's get into the big conversation, which is, of course, with the Sony FX5 now out, we have, to me, there is a conversation that's coming up is that given the fact that it's essentially, even though it's $49.99, it's essentially, or $4,900, it's essentially $5,000. So it's not that far off from the Pyxis 12K, which I have right here. I've been filming on this guy for a while. Let me move some things out of the way. And and there's a lot of similarities. I know this is not really talked about, but the Pyxis 12K actually shoots 16-bit color as well, just like the FX3. Not the FX3, I'm sorry, the FX5. This camera shoots 16-bit, shoots open gate. It also offers high frame rate options in open gate. In this case, this can shoot open gate 8K up to 72 frames a second. It also does it in 4K. It has compression options for its raw formats, just like the FX5. But there's also some features that's right now the FX5 is just clearly better in, like clearly, definitively better. Obviously, autofocus is one of the big areas. I mean, until hopefully Blackmagic brings out autofocus for the Pyxis 12K. But as of right now, we can only go by now. Sony FX5 clears autofocus. It clears low light performance. Though I will say this camera is way better in low light than people give it credit for. It is a far better low light camera if you understand the color management workflow, and if you do use things like DCTLs instead of just using LUTs, but you actually use like DCTL DRTs. Uh, it's really, really, really. It's actually really surprising how good this camera is in low light. But the FX5 is still vastly superior in low light, and that's not even up for debate. It's smaller. It's smaller, lighter, compact. Um, so a lot of people feel it will be more travel friendly. So if you're someone that's been looking at the Pyxis 12K, or you've been looking at the FX5, and now the FX5 is out, like which some people have asked me, hey, which one should I choose? And I personally feel the FX5 is the first camera I've seen, because some people have been talking about other cameras with the Pyxis 12K that like mirrorless cameras. I'm not talking about like actual other cinema cameras like the FX6. I'm talking specifically mirrorless cameras. The FX5 is the first camera in a mirrorless style body that I personally felt you can make a case of it being better than the Pyxis 12K, and and I could take it seriously. Um, for me though, I think the Pyxis 12K is a better camera for me than the FX5, and there's there are really three reasons, and some of them are definitely going to be debatable. And please give your comments, and give your comments. I would definitely love to hear from you guys. The first one, and I know this is going to be sort of a bit of a hot take. It's actually the weight. Um, I actually prefer the heavier, not necessarily heavy, but heavier, but more sort of like the the box out. So basically, like the setup like I have right here, which is for run and gun. This is like my favorite setup. It's not so heavy that I feel like I'm going to wear out walking around with this. In fact, I took this. I basically had this specific setup right here, and uh, yesterday when me and my wife were celebrating our 12th year of marriage, our 12th anniversary, I took this camera. We went out, we did a picnic, and I basically took out and I filmed us out there. And I didn't feel out of place. Were people looking at me? Sure. But guess what? I know people were going to look at me if I was brought the FX6, not the FX6, the FX3, because because I'll have a audio thing and I'll have other things attached to it, because I take my work seriously. So, and I make the best out of it. So I'm going to get looks regardless because I have a camera. If I have a camera like this, nobody ever come to me. Nobody bothered me. Nobody bothered me and my wife. Now, uh, and I like the fact that in terms of the weight, it's very balanced. It feels right. If I was to I can put this right here on my chest, put it on my socket like this, and I this is amazing stabilization. And I feel more in tune with the camera when I'm filming like this. So the weight and the design, and because of the modularity of the camera, I feel more in tune with what I'm filming, and I feel more involved with what I'm filming. Whereas if I have a little mirrorless camera and I'm like here, I was like I'm here, but I'm not. I don't feel it. Again, it's maybe this is like some stupid artistic placebo effect that I may be putting on myself, but I just feel more one with the art of filmmaking, and I feel more in tune with what I'm doing. And I love that. And the weight has to do it because the weight stabilizes it. It allows me to keep things balanced. And also, well, along with that weight, it's just the size. I have I have come to the realization that I just if I'm doing work, and especially if I'm doing paid work, I just prefer the modular cinema style body, and I much prefer that than the mirrorless style body. One, this is shallow, and I know it, and this is not a total reflection of your capabilities. I know, but there's people. My clients give a when they see this, it doesn't make think I'm not serious, but they see this and they go, oh, he's actually serious. It's like it's another step back. It's like a good example of this is when I was flying to Detroit and Chicago, and some of y'all probably have, some of y'all have probably had this happen to you guys where you've had a client that may be on a smaller budget and you come in with lights, come in with lights, you come with a microphone, you got 2 3 pairs and you start set up, and they walk in and they go, whoa, this was a lot more, I did not expect this. Which that just said, a client saying that just says, wow, I'm getting more value than what I anticipated. And that alone helps with retainership. That also helps build trust, and also, again, not completely, but helps build validation that you are a professional. And to me, this body style just is professional. And also, going to professional, this is sort of leads into my third thing. And that is just the fact that I got professional ports right here on the camera. Look, I don't have to buy this Type C to BNC port, which then creates another signal chain, and now uh, I'm creating another point of failure for something like the FX5 if I want to get time code. I got BNC, I got SDI right here on the camera. I don't have to worry about buying. They're right there. And in look, in productions where you are going to have a first AC, where you are having location sound, locations, and I noticed because when the FX5 was announced, this was literally what my location sound guy said after the announcement. It's like, he was basically saying, I'm getting messages from all my other fellow colleagues, and they are begrudgingly annoyed that they're going to have to start buying this cable for the FX5 because they know that people are going to buy it and they're going to have have this cable ready. Uh, it just helps that you have things that are industry standard that's been around, and this is just, it's designed to be up. Even though this is like very compact, this is designed for, in this form factor that I have right now, it's designed for really solo operating, and it's designed for run and gun. I can easily scale this up without taking away the essence of what it is, because this is in essence what it's designed to be. I'm at a stage right now, and look, this is maybe old man in the clouds, and I'll happily admit if it's me, if this is the case. But I'm at a stage right now. I want a mirrorless camera to behave like a mirrorless camera. I'm tired of trying to turn a mirrorless camera like the FX3 into something like this. If I wanted something like this, I'll get something like this. And then for me, the last thing of why I'm preferring the Pyxis 12K, again, preferring the Pyxis 12K over the FX5, is the fact that, look, I sometimes work in virtual production. It's not always, it's not a lot. It's maybe like twice, 2 times, 3 times a year, but it happens. And look, 8K and 12K are, and hell, even the 9K Super 35 option that I have in this camera is much more desirable for VFX houses when I hand off the footage. It's much more desirable to have those things for those clients of mine versus just having a 5K camera. And that to me, again, I don't shoot. Let me be clear, and I don't shoot in the higher res. Like, I don't shoot 8K a lot. I've only shot 12K one time. I only had one shot in 12K. The grand majority of times I'm shooting 4K. The 4K is more than enough, and then with the right lenses, it's sharp enough and it's crisp enough. It is well more than enough to use the 4K in this camera, and my clients have not been dissatisfied. In fact, they're so happy with what I give them just from the 4K files. So while that is true, there's sometimes that I do need the higher resolution. So having a camera and that when I do need that, it's there. And so those are the reasons why you may want to consider a Pyxis 12K. Um, also, um, I know this is very, very debatable, and I don't care. I believe it's true. I think B-Raw's the better raw codec, purely because you get access to a whole variety of color spaces and gamma profiles, like pretty much almost every single color space and gamma profile outside of, interestingly enough, the red the red raw workflow ecosystem. Outside of that, you gain access. Like, one of my favorite things to do is convert all any footage that I put when I'm color grading is convert it to ARRI log C3. And it just works seamlessly. Like, with ARRI Labs or with any other workflow that deals with ARRI log C3, it works seamlessly. It basically treats itself like it's an actual ARRI camera. And I don't have to pay $200 to get this upgrade into it. Looking at you, Lumix. It's right there in the camera. And that's one of the reasons why I love B-roll. And also any camera that brings B-roll into it, whether if it is the FX3 or the Lumix S1 II, which has B-roll, or the Nikon ZR, which can do B-roll. They all incorporate and ingest, currently right now, the Gen 5, hopefully Gen 6 too. But it brings everything into any camera. It brings any camera what you want to into one single cohesive ecosystem, which you're not going to be able to do, especially if for quite a while the FX5 is going to be of these more accessible cameras that don't that um they're not it's not the raw format at this point in time is not going to be cohesive even to Sony's other line of cameras. So it's going to be potentially a year before we get some cohesiveness, if the article is true. But again, having said all that, there is a place that there's going to be places as there the FX5 is going to be better. Or even, you know what, the FX5 could be even a B camera to the Pyxis. Like I said, I think the FX5 is the best B camera. Whatever camera, what if it is like a Venice or a Burano, or even a Pyxis 12K, or an Ursa City 12K, or a Red V Raptor, or like or an ARRI Alexa. You get what I'm saying? It is it is an awesome B camera because of that XOC codec, because it has that open gate, because of the features that it have. It's an amazing. It is, to me, the best B camera. So you can have it where you can sort of have these things work together. And guess what? I have the FX3 and the Pyxis 12K be A cam, B cam all the freaking time on my talking heads, and I can match them seamlessly. And I'm talking about with the FX3, I'm shooting in the compressed H.265 10-bit 422, and this being 16-bit raw, and I can make them match without any issues. So for me, at least, if you're someone that is just you're not really big on the productions, you prefer the mirrorless style body, and you're in the Sony ecosystem, or like I mentioned before, you're doing sports work. To me, the FX5 is the clear winner. However, personally for me, I think if you're more in a production where you have working with multiple people, you've got multiple departments where you got Genie, you've got camera department with first ACs, you got location sound. The standards that these different departments and people working these different roles expect, they're in the Pyxis 12K. So the workflow is already built for larger scale productions, where you kind of have to do this weird clunky thing with the FX5 to make that happen. So long story short, those are my thoughts on the FX5 and the Pyxis 12K. And I would love to know what you guys think. Definitely leave your comments if you're seeing this later, but also let me know what you guys think here in the chat. But speaking of chat, let's go to the chat. So, Central asks, am I upgraded from the FX5 from my FX3? As of right now, no, I'm not. Um, I don't feel the need to rush because what the FX5 brings, I already kind of have in the 3 cameras that I already have. I have the 16-bit color, I have it in the Pyxis 12K. The high performing ISO, I have it in the FX3. Really good continuous autofocus, I have that both in the FX3, but I also have it, I think, better. I think it's better on the Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K full frame. And I got RAW in that as well. I got Open Gate in that as well, and the Pyxis 12. So everything that I've kind of always wanted, I already have it. For me, with the I think if I get more work that's tailored a little bit towards some of those fields, like sports and very high active filming, I definitely would consider that. Or if I feel like, the workflow, if the workflow of mixing the Pyxis and the FX5 is a lot easier than the FX3, which I don't know, I'll have to read it out. So I, as of right now, no, I'm happy with what I have, and I'm willing to take my time. I'm capable of taking my time. I rather invest my money as of right now. Money that I could make, I'd rather invest it into lenses right now. There's quite a few lenses that I want to get, including I want to get the Arcanas, I want to get the ARRIs, I want to get a few. I want to get a few more. I want to get these Joseph Petzvals that Lumography is making, and so, but that costs money, and um, I'm doing really well right now, but I want to be more secure before diving into putting into a $5,000 investment. Hopefully that answers your question, man. Let's see here. Crook, what's up, man? If I don't get it, you will be left behind. Technology, you won't be in the end. Oh no. Okay. Never. Okay. I mean, I'm not in the end right now. I personally don't feel like I'm in the end. Like, because I feel like everybody got the Sony FX5 for at least a day. At least a day. I didn't. So, and that's fine. I don't care if I'm in the end. I just care about working. I love filmmaking, and filmmaking goes beyond the camera. So, uh, you're teasing, which is fine, which is cool. But yeah, I don't care if I'm in the end. If I'm in, I'm in. If I'm not, oh well. Let's see here. Pyxis 12K equals for onset all manual workflow. So the Pyxis 12K is best for on sets or on all manual workflow. FX3 run and gun focus content travel, but also can work on sets. I think that's a good. I think I think the Pyxis 12K is actually really good on run and gun. It's actually good run and gun. Like I have no problem traveling with this camera. I would not feel like have a problem traveling abroad with a camera like this and filming, because when if I'm being paid to go film abroad, there are certain expectations anyway of what what's in terms of communicating with people in the country, people in the area that we're filming in, having a plan and things like that. So to me, like, these are things. So I don't feel the need. I don't feel there is a lot of places where there's not really a lot of places where I don't feel comfortable taking this camera. There is a few select things, like, again, to me, there's some things where it's like dining. I felt some restaurants will be like, hey, you can't bring that in there. Whereas if I come with something like the FX5, yeah, there's certain areas where it's just like, okay, you can make it get away with that. But I also don't feel like it's the Pyxis 12K is great for running gun. I use it for running gun all the time. The Pyxis 12K is actually my main camera for weddings and for dock work, which are very running gun instances, and I love it. I filmed a whole golf event on the Pyxis 12K using using these manual focus lenses. You know, it can be done, and so I don't. So while I can understand why people think that, I also don't necessarily agree with that. I think both are great for running gun and for content and travel. I think for certain content creators that are not looking for production, the FX5 would be better in that sense. All right. I think the FS5 fits Burano owners like the ZR Ferrettos. Totally agree. I totally 100% agree with you, Light and Story. Totally 100% agree with you on that. 12K is a no doubt. Yeah, uh, Jay's J Films. Yeah, absolutely. 12K is a no doubt. FX5 with DGO has more dynamic range than the Burano. No, the Latitude performance on it is really, really good. I guess my question is, in like legitimate scenarios, when will that like a Latitude like that actually there's a there like you that there's something like how it works, especially how much it works with the shadows. It's a very, very niche situation. And hey, look, that's when you got niche situations, it's great to have a camera like that. But it's still a very niche situation. I don't personally see, in terms of general performances, a valuable difference in its latitude of the latitude performance, how valuable of a difference it makes in like actual working environment, in actual working paid working environments, because we're all working with lights, and as cinematographers our whole job is to shape the light and shape light for storytelling. It's designed to be controlled, otherwise we're not really doing our job. So I don't so yes, it definitely has more dynamic range. I just wonder how much of a value it actually is. So uh yeah, no, again, it has a great dynamic ranges. For 5K, it better be my A cam. Look, eh, for you say that, but my problem is yeah, and I get that because it's like it's $5,000. It better be an A cam. The problem I have is just the body, because it's a mirrorless style body. Mirrorless style, no matter what, mirrorless bodies are really are really more designed to be B cameras, and where certain scenarios there are great A cameras. Again, that's the B, a B camera. The best B cameras are cameras that can also, in certain scenarios, be A cameras. But for me, an A camera is a camera that can go through any form of production, any form, and without much much twickering to make it into something that it originally wasn't to be. And that's kind of what the Pyxis 12K is. You don't need to rig it out and get it tweak it to get all of a sudden SDI or do some weird configuration for timecode. It's all built into the camera. It's made for that stuff like that. So yeah, I get it's $5,000, but like I said, I think it's the best B camera. I don't fully consider it a true A camera, if that makes sense. Simon says the pre-orders for the FX5 beat the C50 and RFC combined based on US sales. I mean, that's cool. I don't care, but good for Sony. Don't care. Uh, let's see here. What we uh, Gen 6 will bring higher dynamic range. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Again, we don't know, Gabriel. We'll see. It is still a wait and see. The only thing I do know that I saw that what you see if you go to Blackmagic's website is that there's a improvement of color fidelity and there's an improvement to skin tone rendering. That is the key things that it covers. It doesn't necessarily cover dynamic range, but I'm not going to say I would be surprised if it has more dynamic range. I don't. But I can't say for certain it's going to be that. Yes, Duke. Yes, that is absolutely true. 16-bit linear is basically the equivalent of 12-bit log. And I actually made a point about that in my previous videos on the FX5 is that yes, it's 16-bit linear, but I've also said like 12-bit log profiles are essentially have the same dynamic range flexibility. But yeah. Dual gain on this camera looks insane. No, it does. It does look insane. 13.9 stops at signal to noise ratio to 2. Yeah. So you guys are conversation. That's good, but you got to look at the latitude tests. But luckily, those are stellar as well. So yeah, the latitude tests are great. I I guess for me, it's just like I'm kind of over the talk of dynamic range because all these cameras are good, and I just personally feel like the numbers, like at some point, the numbers really don't mean anything. Because at the end of the day, again, if you're in a professional set, you're using your lighting. Even when you're working with natural light, you're still shaping natural light. Like this doc shoot I did, we were filming we were filming this car shot in the garage. We didn't have any lights, but we were still bouncing. We still bounce light off of it using ultra bounce. So like it we're to me, it's like we're so I think we need to stop focusing on the number. I don't care. I don't care about the numbers anymore. They're good. Just go out and film. Go out and make content. So I'm that's my little rant on latitude. So we're gonna pass all of the latitude talks. Uh, uh, Sadly, Sony doesn't provide their best sensors to third parties. Well, of course not. Why would Sony give their best? Why would Sony give their best stuff to other people when they can keep it to themselves? One shot. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Uh, the RAW on the FX5 is much smaller than ProRes RAW on the S12. Makes it much more usable day to day. That is true. But I would also point out to you, Duke, that the Pyxis 12K actually has even smaller file sizes than the FX5. If you put this camera in the 4K mode and if you put it in the Q5 mode and you turn off the proxies, I believe multiple people, I think it was Kofi and a couple other people basically said at C2 on the FX5 you get 5 hours on a 1 terabyte CIF Express Type A card. On the Pyxis 12K, if you turn proxies off, put in the 4K, and put in the Q5, you get 9.5 hours of record time on a 1 terabyte. So you get almost double. You get almost double that on the Pyxis 12K. So just to let you guys know. Yeah, but ProRes RAW is ridiculously fast. So let's see. So it looks like you guys are continuing talking. I believe it's the rolling shutter is actually 18. I think multiple people it's like 18 milliseconds with the dual gain on, and then it's like 8 with the dual gain. Yeah, as Duke pointed out, it's 18. Open gate is 18. So let's see here. So J Films is like, I'm picking the 12K because it forces me to use light and dynamic range. I love that feeling and art, but that's just me. I can't speak for everyone. FX5 is a nice camera, and that is man. You essentially are basically explaining how I feel. It's like as I mentioned in my overview in my discussion of the Pyxis 12K and why I'm going leaning towards that. I just feel more in tune with what I'm filming when I'm with the Pyxis 12K. It force like yes, it continues to hone your skills. Um, and there's a this is kind of leaning into sort of a conversation I think we need to have. Is like at one point at what point does being comfortability or ease of what at one point does comfort sort of come at the cost of um elevation? Like I feel like we're allowing cameras to we're so quick to put everything in auto to allow the camera to take more control over what we are producing. And at some point, what at what point are we just sort of losing the ability to hone our craft? And I think that is, I mean, that's something that I'm definitely looking to make a video on because it's something that's been on my mind for a while now, and I've kind of felt gone more in the direction of I rather like with what regardless if it's like I choose prime lenses over zoom lenses. Choose manual focus lenses over autofocus lenses. I'm choosing no IBIS cameras over IBIS cameras. You know, I'm finding myself choosing consciously choosing selections that bypasses ease of use or not ease of use but bypasses um comfort, bypasses like lackadaisical and get and doing more to where I have to think on my feet. Because to me, I feel like this is the best way to hone your craft and to sort of hone your skills and not just like give everything to the camera to decide what to do. Is the FX3 obsolete now, or as soon as the FX5s are in everyone's hands? If well, I don't think the FX3 is absolute. Absolutely not. In fact, Sony doesn't think the FX3 is obsolete. If you read the interview, like I said, you may have not been here when we discussed the article by Cindy D, or they released a video talking to Sony reps. Sony basically says no, we don't believe the FX3 is obsolete. In fact, we're going to continue to provide major firmware updates for the FX3. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. So if Sony says it's not obsolete, it's not obsolete because they're the ones making it. So no, it's not. I've already said I think Sony is going to put RAW in the FX3, internal RAW into the FX3. I think it's like C1 and C2, not the LT, but they're going to put C1, C2 in the FX3, and I think they'll put OpenGate in the FX3. Hence why this year-long roadmap. Why why don't I use the FX3 if I like the form factor? Because the FX3 doesn't have, I mean, the FX3 doesn't have OpenGate. The FX3 doesn't get, because the FX3 doesn't, I'm sorry, not the FX3, I'm sorry. The FX6 doesn't give me everything I want. Like, I like the form factor, but the FX6 doesn't shoot OpenGate. The FX6 doesn't give me OpenGate up to 60, at high frame rates, up to 72 frames a second. The FX6 doesn't give me the latitude performance that I get out of this. The FX6 doesn't give me the ability to shoot in RAW like I enjoy shooting here. The FX6, it's very, how should I put this? It's not exciting to me. I enjoy filming with this because I feel like I'm when I go out and shoot with this, I feel engaging. So I choose that's why I say I don't choose the FX6. Mainly is that it doesn't let me use the full sensor. And I've shot, by the way, I've shot with the FX6. One of my short films that's actually right here on YouTube. And I did a behind the scenes. I shot on the FX6, and it was cool to shoot with. but it was just okay, and I just for me, it's not enough. Uh, so yeah, so you guys are still talking about the S12. We'll see. Yeah, S1H should be a monster with a fully stacked sensor. Let's hope that it is. I'm still my thing. The only problem I have with the FX or whenever the S1H2 comes out, it's the same feeling I have with the FX right now with the FX5. Is that there's so many cameras that have came out now that I like. Okay, you put out specs, and I'm just like, eh, okay, cool. I'll take a look, see how you feel, and if I'm interested, I'm not over the moon. I wasn't over the moon with the FX5, but I really love all the different features and it ticks a lot of boxes. But I'm also just like I'm chill, I'm good, I'm chilling, and I feel like because there's so many good cameras out right now, so many varieties, that the need for um the S1H2, at least from a the currently non-Lumix shooter. I shoot Lumix, but a current non-Lumix shooter looking in, I'm like, okay, we'll see. I know Lumix shooters are excited, but I'm not. I don't know. FX5 is definitely ideal for those wanting a small mirrorless. It's just nice to see that the dynamic range and quality is roughly the same as the Pyxis 12K. Yes, no, I do agree. Like, look, if you are someone that just you love the mirrorless workflow, you love working with mirrorless cameras, I think right now I don't think there's a better camera like feature rich out that offers of a mirrorless style body that offers you to me a better opportunity than the FX5. So if you are just like, look, I just like shooting mirrorless. Again, if that style, like if shooting on a mirrorless camera where you got a mirrorless camera, you're not rigging it out. Like I'm not talking like if you're trying to rig it out to make it look more like this, then you want a modular camera. Then just go get yourself a modular camera. But if you're someone who likes the 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 way a mirrorless style is and you keep it that way, then yeah, I think the FX is hard to argue. So let's see here. What year the S1 came out? People have been talking about it for years now. If I remember correctly, the S1H came out 2016. If I remember, I could be wrong, but I believe it was 2016. I'm sure somebody. I'm trying to catch up. I know somebody probably answered that question. Let's see here. Let's just see here. You guys are still talking about latitude. We're moving on from latitude. It looks like you're trying to convince you did the best decision on the Pyxis. I mean, I whatever I did to anybody else is irrelevant. I personally feel it is the best decision, and since I'm the one who's filming and it's my career, it's my choice. I'm Everybody else is if whatever you want to film on, it's your choice. I'm not gonna knock anybody that chooses an FX5 over a Pyxis 12K. Like I said, I think the FX5 it's a legitimate case of saying of looking at the FX5 and choosing it over a Pyxis 12K. That's fine. Or look, what if it is? I guess again, I don't know what anybody else shoots or what type of work that everybody else does. Um, you have to. You are the person that knows your workflow. You guys know what you do for work. So at the end of the day, you have to make a choice for yourself. I don't. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm just here to give my thoughts of my reasons why I choose a Pyxis 12K. I I don't need to convince anybody, and I definitely don't need to convince myself. I've already made the decision, and I'm perfectly happy. I'm happy with the Pyxis 12K. So I like when the FX5 came out, there was no nerves. There was no man like, oh man, should I sell? Like the thought of selling my Pyxis 12K didn't even enter my mind. It wasn't even a thought. it it wasn't even an inception of any kind. It never even got that far because it doesn't make sense for me to give up the Pyxis 12K for an FX5. It just doesn't. So take that as you will. Let's see here. I mean, if I guess we'll see. FX3 takes photos, and that in line gives it space in the game. Totally agree. Totally agree with you, Central. So let's see here. Trying to catch up. You guys are still arguing here. FX5 and Pyxis. Brandon, what's up, man? FX5 and Pyxis 12K are apple and oranges. Yeah, I agree, but I think there's a lot of people that still are not sure about the type of filmmaker they are. So especially if especially if it's people that came up as photographers and then they transitioned into videos, because there's a lot of people that are hybrid shooters, and and some people, it may be they may transition, may want to be more filmmakers, or maybe that's what they do in their style of filmmaking. Again, that's literally action packed, quick fist. It fits. So, but the features, I think, are enough to warrant a conversation of what matters. So to me, but I totally agree with you, Brandon, in the general scheme that yes, these are apples and oranges. But I do understand why people sort of debate between the two. Let's see. FX5 hits hard. Yes, it definitely does, man. Let's see here. Well, you guys a conversation. Let's see here. So let's see. Why not Saint Productions? What's up, man? Why not have both cameras? I have to catch up though. I'm at the beginning of your live. No problem. There's nothing. There's no reason. I mean, obviously, the most notable reason is that you're talking about spending over $10,000 for both cameras. If get both cameras, if you have the means to do it, sure. But I also know not everybody just has $10,000 to just lying around. And keep in mind, that's just to get the bodies of both of these cameras. We're not even talking about like EVFs for either one of these cameras. We're not talking about any other rigs or modular things that you would need for these cameras. We're not talking about media because, oh my God, media. Oh my God, media. The price point that we're at right now with media. Holy shit. So, yeah, I mean, we literally talk about potentially like $15,000 on just two cameras. So I will get you if you have the means to get both, yeah, and they definitely, I think they are great A and B cameras. But I also know not everybody has $10,000 to $15,000 lying around. Let's see here. Some people will use it and be fine with it, but the FX5 is not built for the same type of work as the FX3. I would love to. I'm assuming you mean. I would love to hear. I guess let me not assume, Robert. I would love to hear. I don't know if you're still here. Again, I'm trying to catch up, man. But if you haven't, definitely put it in the chat. I'll try to scroll down and catch it. But I'm assuming you mean because it also the FX3 can take photos. It has some other workflows. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, man. Let's see here. Will FX users get pushed away in favor of FX5 users? I'm assuming you're talking about production. I mean, no. I mean, I don't think so. Because let's be honest, the FX6 and the FX3 just work better. They're the same sensors. The FX3 and FX6 are just better compatibility. So if people are not willing to move to like a Burano or don't have a Burano or a Venice, I think if you have someone with an FX6, the FX3 just makes more sense because the workflow is essentially the same. You got the same sensor, so and this so to me, I don't think the FX3 is going to, as long as until there's unless they've replaced the FX6 Central. I don't think they're going to get pushed away because to me, I think the FX3 are going to be seen more compatible on shoots that are filming on FX6s than FX5 with FX6s. Let's see here. The FX5 fixed the thing I hated most about the FX3. It can turn noise reduction off. Yeah. If That's definitely one of the things that I'm happy for. But the one that it fixed for me the most the was the fully articulating screen. I know that seems like a silly thing, but for me, I nothing annoys me more than having the screen off to the side. So having the screen be able to tilt up, it's one of my favorite features of the G8.6. I really wish more cameras did it. I wish Canon would do it. I'm like, Canon still hasn't done that. So Canon, you need to get up on your game for that. But yeah, no, there is a lot of things I think the FX5 definitely fixed that it agrees. So, and that was one of them. Let's see. Uh, says so you guys are still conversation. All right. Let's see here. Tim, but what's up, man? Can't wait for Blackmagic to release Gen 6 color science. When they do, the RGBW sensors will be tough for Sony, Canon, and Panasonic to compete against. Plus, integration in Resolve will be superior. I mean, look, I think I can't wait for Resolve. Not sorry, I can't wait for Gen 6 too. I don't know if it will be tough for Panasonic and Canon to compete because things are more complicated because filmmaking is a lot more complicated. You're talking about ecosystems, you're talking about workflows. Um, but I definitely think Gen 6 will definitely take Blackmagic, make especially if it comes out what everybody expected. I think Gen 6 will definitely put some ears on people's eyes on Blackmagic. Let's see here. So you guys are talking lenses. Yeah, Dennis. I'm getting like I said. I think my next lens that I'm going to get is the Arcanas. I'm gonna at least get I'm debating of getting the whole set because I don't really want the whole set, but I'm like, it's only a couple $100 more to get all three lenses because I definitely want the 45 and the 75. I don't really want the wide one, but I'm just like, well, it's only a couple hundred. Well, I'm like, well, it's only a couple $100 more, and you get a case. So I look at it as like I'm paying to get the case, and the and the 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 wide angle Arcana is just sort of like a freebie add on. Let's see here. Yeah, the FX5 is nice though. Let's see here. Yo, I don't know. I don't know if that was some dirt. I don't know if that's dirt. Well, I guess that's more of a. I don't know who's that more of an insult more to Robert, Tubi or the FX5. I'll leave that up to you guys. I Dennis Schwartz, in the words of media division, I believe the term or the phrase you're looking for is marketing diarrhea. I like how everyone in the comments is agreeing with the Pyxis 12K and FX5. Hey, look, we're all coming together. Yeah, no, I agree. I think they are. I'm like, if there is a means, I'm like, again, if you have the financial means, if the money makes sense, I think they're great A B cameras to one another. I think they complement each other very well. Hey, look, the camera world. Hey, look, the camera world can come together and agree on something. That is awesome. Okay, let's see here. Let's do. I have the FX30 and I love it. I can't wait till I upgrade to the Pyxis 12K. Awesome, man. Can't wait to see you join us, man. Let's see here. At this point, I prioritize workflow over specs. How can I get the concept to deliver in the most efficient way? And I think that's the best way to look at it. Is which that is to me the best way to look at it is which one fits the workflow that you're looking for or the workflow that you do. Uh, I, I'm spoiled because I have the Ursa City 12K LF, and it's so good. And when it comes to workflow, it is king. I can use a 3 Fisher to power lens motors from cam front. Cool, awesome, man. Uh, I definitely wanted to. I was looking at the Ursa City 12K when it first came out, but once the Pyxis 12K announced, I was like, that just fit me better, and I'm so happy with it. Let's see here. Uh, as a Pyxis 12K owner, I that as a Pyxis 12K owner, that pimped his shit out. The FX5 might be jumping ahead as a cam more than I'm ready to accept. Think about shots per minute, and I am. I actually am. Jit Dog. The Pyxis 12K still beats the FX5 in terms of shots per minute. Again, I think I mentioned this before. The Pyxis 12K, you can you can get almost double the time frame in RAW that you could in on the FX5. Because you could get 9 hours on a 1 TB in 4K Q5 versus I think you could get almost 5 hours on the Sony FX5. So for in terms of shots per minute, the Pyxis 12K wins that. Uh, so yeah. Do I have any experience with the Eterna? I only got a chance to hold it at NAB New York and sort of got a chance to see it in my hands. But on an actual set, I have no experience with. Um, and I've ran into I know a few people who've DP'd with the Interna. Um, again, I haven't tried it, so I can't speak on it personally. I will say the experience that I've been hearing from people that have got a chance to shoot it have been mixed, and I'll just leave it at that. Uh, but but it's true what you said in 2026. Almost any camera's good for that person. 100. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Let's see. All right, so again conversations about log and linear. Glad you guys are engaging with each other. Let's see here. Even if the S1H comes out, I don't think I will be excited unless like 20 new lenses for LML. Man, Agneta, you are my spirit animal this evening because yeah, like that is my biggest gripe with not necessarily Lumix in general, but it's there needs to be more variety of options on the L mount. And they need to come out at a quicker pace. I just I'm not excited about as much about stuff on the L mount as I am about other mount ecosystems. Even Canon, even though they don't open their lens really their full frame autofocus capabilities lenses to other third party manufacturers, at least what Canon delivers, I find more excited than what is delivered by Lumix in general. But in general, autofocus stuff on the L mount, there needs to definitely be more improvement. I 100% agree. And I'll give an example. I have been spending the past month because I want a 28mm lens, and I want a 28mm lens for my Pyxis and for my cinema camera 6K. They're obviously L mount, and I have been spending the last month searching for the best case scenario. And ultimately, you know what I decided? I decided to go with an M mount Typoc 28mm because because there's literally only one serious, like one good quality 28mm on the L mount ecosystem, and it costs as much as that camera, and that's the Leica 28mm. I don't know if Leica has some sort of lockdown and telling other um, manufacturers that they can't make a 28 millimeter for whatever reason. I don't know, but it's insane that I can't, that there is no other 20 like Sigma is one of the premier members of the L mount alliance. They have a 28 millimeter that they have out on the Sony E mount ecosystem. Yet and it's nowhere near to be found on the L mount. It's insane to me. Let's see here. The 32-bit float is not larger. Those are just two different storage types. 16-bit float. Okay, y'all. Oh, so you're talking. Oh, you're talking about linear log. So you guys are still talking about linear log. Okay, gotcha. Uh, Lumix is allergic to making lenses. Uh, I don't know if they're allergic to making lenses. I just think they're allergic to just making interesting lenses. Uh, that's my take. Yeah, yeah. We saw. Look, there's right now like talks of the S1H has died down. I don't think we'll see it anytime soon. Without the S1H, we would not have an FX3, FX30, FX5. I, look, there's no way to argue. There's no way to definitively prove that. I don't know if I agree. I don't think I would agree with that. But I understand what you're saying. I understand the point that you're trying to make here. The S1H definitely, in terms of full frame mirrorless cameras, took a huge step and took a step, and I commend the S1H for that. But I would also argue Blackmagic kind of did that way before the S1H. But again, that was Super 35 with their Pocket 6K Pro. Actually, no, no, sorry, forgive me. Lumix came first. Now that I'm thinking about it, Lumix actually came first. It wasn't Blackmagic. Lumix came first with the S1H. So no, kudos to you, Lumix, for that. S1H makes sense with internal NDs. I look, unless I'm gonna be honest, unless the S1H is significantly bigger, I don't expect internal NDs. Like I think we need to come to the point that right now, at least look the way technology is right now, and I think so many people actually already came out with Sony with this came out. Expecting a camera body like the size of the FX5 to have internal NDs, it, you're really trying to bend the laws of physics, and to which we are not in. As much as Marvel likes to throw down multiverses in our faces, we're not in a multiverse dimension yet. Yet. I have a Canon 90D and FX30, and now coming soon a Pyxis 12K. Just love cameras. Appreciate that, man. Uh, you guys are having. I love that you guys are having the conversation. So keep this up, man. Our Vid Pro Mike, what's up, man? Our small production company has an Ursa City 12K and a Ursa City and a 6K, and we also have an FX3 and A7S3. We usually go with one over the other. There are two different systems. Both are fantastic. Yeah, and I think that's a great way to look at it. And that's basically what I was kind of getting at too, where it's like, so during the day, I'll give my little example. So yesterday, during the day when I was celebrating my anniversary, during the day I took this out. So we went to um, this. We went to this. It's a state park, but of a large lake. Some of y'all that's in PA, y'all know this area. It's called Nakamixon State Park. So me and my wife went there. We had a little picnic, and I brought this to go film, and we filmed there. And I filmed my time there, and it was fantastic. I enjoyed it, and I had no issues of bulbs. Come back to me, thank you. Um, Later in the evening, we went to. For those of you that are familiar with Philly, we went to Spruce Harbor, and we had dinner at the Keating. It's a restaurant at the Hilton Hotel in Philly on Spruce Harbor. And for that, I brought the FX3 because you know I know for a sit down restaurant where we're not moving a lot, um, and there's a lot of congested in a restaurant. It's not really appropriate to necessarily bring an no, the Pyxis 12K. So I brought the I brought the FX3. We were outside, shot at 12,000 ISO, and again, I had a blast. The exactly what Mike is saying here is that look, uh, you go with what fits. You go with what fits and fits the workflow. Both systems are great. There's nothing wrong with either system. Uh, da, 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 da. Let's see. I can see them working with FX5 because of 16-bit RAW, but of course we're talking about people who know what they're doing. Yeah. Let's see here. Let's see here. Uh, let's see. I was considering the Blazar Vipers, but the Arcata seemed more versatile. Yeah, I was honestly I wasn't really considering Blazar until uh I until actually the Vipers. Yeah, it's the Vipers. Until the Vipers, I really I'll be honest. I felt Blazar has been overhyped. They're really good. So they're really good anamorphic lenses for what, especially when they first came out with the I forgot the original anamorphics that they came out with uh before. They were solid, but I thought that was like they were still problematic, and to me they were not the quality that everybody was told to be. But then of course Cam Mackey got on, and everybody hopped on, and Cam Mackey does a great job of anamorphics. So it just took off, and look, kudos to Blazar, but it was really the Vipers that I finally felt like okay, they've really stepped it up. But I just feel the Arcadas are just better for me. For me. And that's the thing about lenses. Lenses are very individual. I'm looking at buying that mic I'm using. So yes, I'm assuming you're talking about the Audio Technica ATV SG1. Yeah, I'm still loving it. I'm still enjoying it, especially for like these live stream stuff and podcast stuff. It's great for stuff like this. Um, I interestingly, um, I have found that um, I got to learn to be careful, or it's like I mean most camera microphones, there is a point where the quality does fall off, and it falls off not as terribly as like the Comica VM40s, where it's just like if you were not like 2 feet away from the mic, the quality just fell off. Where here it still gives quality, but there is sort of like um a little bit of an echo that falls off if you don't if you don't get the levels right from if the subject or the audio is a bit further away than before. But overall, I think the quality is solid. I love it. I have found that if you combine the Audio Technica with what I have right now, I don't know if you guys will see this, but I have the Rode Wireless Pro on with this. I have found that the quality is actually way better, uh, especially if you like put the transmitter and run the receiver into the camera. The quality is like way better. Uh, Interestingly, so this may be sort of my thing. It'll be kind of goofy where I'm using this to run like sound into the camera, but I found it to be like the quality is just insane, and I absolutely love it. It looks like yeah, no, that was cool. The Tubi thing was wild. I assume you were talking about the photography. So I assume you were talking about the photography, Robert. So yeah, no, I agree. That's sort of I think the thing that would be missing. But I guess that begs the question. It still begs the question. I don't know if we'll see an FX3 Mark II, because if they put an FX3 Mark II that's more designed of catering to hybrid to gets more hybrid focused cinema lens, which I don't know, that hybrid cinema lens sounds Look, maybe I'm being too it sounds stupid to me. I'm like, it's a cinema camera. Let it be if you're a cinema camera, be a cinema camera. But to me, uh, isn't that what the FX2 is designed to be? Like, I don't know. I feel like there would be an FX2 Mark II, or yeah, I think there would be like an FX2 Mark II before there's like an FX3. Because that's really more, to me, that would be more for the photos for that. Just my thoughts. Uh, Simple Light, good to see you, man. Thank you for doing it. The FX5 is a wonderful camera. I will get it at some point. I love the fact I never have to leave Sony ecosystem unless I want to. That's great. And look, I am absolutely happy that Sony's got they definitely have a winner there. Switch Zone, what's up, man? Thank you for joining. Let's see here. Uh, I mainly film on Blackmagic cameras, but on some gigs we go Sony. Yeah, look, and again, it all depends. I know for some of my jobs, it's sort of the reverse. Like there's some jobs where I have a couple clients who film with Sony's, and so the FX3 fits in that workflow just fine. And but a lot of sort of my if I'm freelancing as a either as a DP or as a cam op, I have found that a lot more of my clients are Blackmagic. They're Blackmagic owners. So the Pyxis 12K sort of gets them. But yeah, basically it says it's all depending on the job. Uh, in terms of lens options, the ranking is Sony E-mount, Canon RF, Nikon Z, Panasonic L. But note that Sony has way more than the rest. It's not even close. It's close to double the next competitor. So I mean, yes, if you're talking about sheer quantity, it's Sony. It's not even it's not even close yet, Sony. I will say if you changed it up, if we were to go with let's because we're talking Blackmagic cameras. We all know Blackmagic cameras don't have IBIS. So we need to find ways to compensate. Or if let's say you get an FX5 and you decide to disable and turn off, go take it in and basically lock the sensor in, and basically you remove the IBIS completely. You now have to look at options. Now, granted, Sony still has a good variety of options that you could of stabilized lenses that they have. However, Canon actually has the number one. If we're talking stabilized lenses, which I think as a Blackmagic owner is a bit more valuable to me, I think Canon is clearly number one in stabilized lenses. Like I think they're not Sony's not too far behind. And look, in the grand total of schemes, it's not that many, but there is a good enough amount of stabilized lenses, and Canon leads the pack in that. So if you're somebody that is really prefers stabilization through lenses than IBIS, which I am one of them, just putting this out there, Canon actually leads the pack in that. Bucks County, PA, what's up? Hey, what's up, man? Let's see here. FX roller shutter. FX roller shutter for great for capture LeBron James and Philly. By the way, all my 76ers fans out here, because I know I got a couple people from Philly in here. How are y'all feeling about LeBron coming to the 76ers? I've heard. Look. I know people are like excited, but these same people. I also know that these same 76er fans were talking mad shit about LeBron James before he decided to join. But I also know some people are like are a bit mixed on LeBron coming as well. So, but I'd love to know what you guys feel. How would you feel about LeBron James coming to Philly? I was personally I'm a Miami. Look, Miami Heat is still my team. and I've been a fan of the Miami Heat since like 2004 Wade Shaq. That's when I started peeping them and sort of watching and became a fan of the Heat, and I've been a fan of them ever since. I kind of was hoping he would go back to South Beach. I'm not gonna lie, to see him team up with Giannis and Bam. I don't know how it worked, but that was sort of my goal. But look, uh, in terms of a starting five, it is. I don't. Let's be clear. This I did not. I don't think anybody had expected Philly to all of a sudden make the moves and get the players that they get. I don't think. I don't think by the end of the NBA's playoffs, we expected to Philadelphia, the 76ers, to get Jaylen Brown and LeBron James uh, in the same season. I don't think that was on anybody's bingo card. Oh, sorry. Yes, I do agree. The Z mount is the most adaptable. I just need Sony to add H.265 with 30 and 25p for everyday client work. Yeah, done, done and done. Awesome. Come back to me. Thank you. Let's see here. Which do I prefer, more resolution or more dynamic range? Um. All right, you're gonna have to give me an example because here's the thing. My answer in general would be more dynamic range. However, I I don't. I think each one has his own perk. Like I said, I have a couple clients that work in visual production, and when you're working in visual production, resolution is far more valuable than dynamic range. Dynamic range is definitely helpful, but in like working in visual production, resolution is far more valuable. So, and I still have a few clients that do that. Um, and look, dynamic range is definitely important, but I feel like we've kind of made this conversation about numbers. Oh, it has this amount of dynamic range, or it does this amount of latitude, and it's like, yeah, cool, but there isn't a lot of scenarios where you those situations would be pushed to those extremes. If it does happen, then it's great, but like in professional shoots, everything is control. A lot of things are controlled, even in uncontrolled situations like run and done documentaries or doing stuff where you're not controlled. You don't really need that much. You don't need more than like 12 and a half stops of dynamic range. I'm gonna just say this: you don't need more than 12 and a half stops of dynamic range to get good looking footage. It's really just about how is the digital image processed. And that comes down to a whole bunch of factors. A bunch of factors. What lenses? Let's talk about the lenses and how it renders contrast and things like that. It comes down to the bit. It comes down to the bit rate and how much color information can be stored. It comes down to the codec. How is that processed? Uh, what things are added? Like what sort of process things are added, like noise reduction, lens correction, the NLE, and the NLE. How is your computer processing? There's so many different factors to a camera's dynamic range that we're over evaluating. Like I look at anytime if Gerald or Dunn ever comes out with a number or City D comes out with a lab test, I just look at it as just like, okay, that's cool information. But I don't take that value I don't take that number anywhere else after that. It's just nice information. It's not there to justify a camera or not, and I feel like we push too much emphasis on dynamic. To me, the value of dynamic range has peaked because every camera is so good and every camera does good dynamic range. That more dynamic range, the value, how much more to the camera can push dynamic range doesn't really merit as much as I think people think. Uh, let's see here. Do you think the Pyxis 12K can have an E mount? Is it possible that they don't want or to, or is it the reason that they don't do this? I feel like this would sell like hotcakes. I think it's more of a Sony. I think it's more of a Sony issue than Blackmagic. Um, I think if I and look, this could just be rumors, but if I remember, based on conversations both I've had with people in person and thing I've heard around the net, it's that Sony does not allow other camera manufacturers to take on serious email. There's I think it's like there's something with Sony in terms of full frame and autofocus and the E mounts. There's some sort of thing with that with Sony. I don't know. Um, but I also heard in an interview with Blackmagic, it's actually the same one that talked about the Pyxis 12K getting continuous autofocus and Gen 6. In that interview, the person asked, "Would you, if Blackmagic would consider the E mount?" And they said it is. They're open. They're open to exploring other mounts. So I think it may be a Sony thing, more so than Blackmagic. FX5 or ZR plus Pyxis 6K combo. Um, I mean, if it works for you, I don't. I personally, um, I think that could definitely be sufficient. Uh, it just depends on what you do. Obviously, I think either the ZR or the FX5 definitely complements some of the limitations of the Pyxis 6K. So yeah, it's a good one. So in general, the FX5 or the ZR are great complementary pieces. I guess it's just sort of matter of, do you want a camera that's like in terms of the ZR where you're not spending as much money but you're getting and you're working with red code raw, or do you want to work with or do you want open gate, um and you're willing to spend the extra money on the FX5? So to me, it's just, I guess it's more of a financial thing. Is, are you willing to go more on the FX5? If not, the ZR, I think, yeah, I think it's a good combo. It's, you just have to, I think you just have to be good at color matching and color matching, which, it doesn't take that much effort, but it just takes the willing to do. I use the Pyxis 12K on a 100K campaign. I only care about the money. YouTube debates on cameras are meaningless. I only care about dynamic range. I only care about that. I love that. I need to put that on a t-shirt. I need to figure out a way to put that on a t-shirt, and if I ever do, I'll credit you, JB's. I'll credit you on that. I only where it says it says I only care about the dynamic range of the check. That needs to be on a t-shirt, man. That needs to be on a t-shirt. Who owns the 76 Arena? Um, it's I don't know. I'm not a 76ers fan, so I don't. I know I live in Philly, but I don't really follow the 76ers because er- I I'm because I've been over the process, because I've been, quite frankly, over the process for quite some time. So I'm just like, uh, you know. So I'm like, we'll see what they do. Uh, 76er fans like open gate fans. We hated it when I love that. That's awesome. 76er fans are like open gate fans. We hated it when we didn't have it. That's awesome. That is awesome response. I love that, man. Uh that was awesome. More so Brandon chooses resolution. Uh okay. All right. Hey, see? It's good. All right. He uses it more cases. Okay, awesome. I rank Incredible Ibis ahead of Dynamic Rage for, um if I can lose the gimbal, that's huge for me. All right. And everybody's different. I know first time feature, me and you are just on opposite sides of this. And like me personally, I think Ibis is the most overrated feature of a camera, but that's me because to me, I'm always chasing what is going to bring me the best product. And even to this day, there's still not an IBIS. There's no camera with an IBIS system that has outperformed a gimbal. And to me, the gimbal is always going to give you the best performance, so I'm always going to choose that. So but I totally get the idea of, hey, if I can lose the gimbal, is great. I personally would still choose the gimbal over the IBIS, and because of that, and also I actually would choose a monopod over IBIS, because for the most part, the monopod does similar to what the IBIS can do, especially with like if you put a monopod with the Pyxis 12K or any of Blackmagic's cameras, and then you start using the gyro data in Resolve, it you're going to get almost very similar. You can get very similar performance to an IBIS. So, but I totally hear and respect your side of it as well. All right, let's see, man. We're blowing 2 hours, man. Uh, but which is good. I'm glad we're having this conversation. Just goes to show that there is not one camera for everyone. Exactly. Everybody has different needs. Everybody has different, and that's what I was sort of saying with the FX5. Like, if you just go like on the sheet, like if you go on the if you just look at spec sheets, the FX5, yes, we could I think we could safely say that the FX5 is better than a large amount of cameras on paper and from a spec sheet perspective. But in terms of people's needs, people's financial capabilities, and people's workflow, it may not be the best camera. And for it, even though on paper it should be the best camera, and you shouldn't go for a camera that's necessarily maybe the best camera on paper. You should go with the camera that is right for you. Do we really see a big difference between 13 stops and 6 versus 16 stops? I, I, again, not it. It all depends on how the log form interprets it, because some people value dynamic range in terms of highlights because it's very film like. Some people have more shadows because it gives you a cleaner image and things like that. It all depends on your perspective. I think a little bit in terms of perspective, but just from a serious production workflow, it to me, we we don't I don't it, I know this is going to sound sacrilegious, but I don't see the difference in terms of value. I don't see the difference between 13 stops and 16 stops. These things are fun to talk about, but they're really meaningless, especially in today's world of content, unless we're talking about Hollywood, which is 99% isn't the case. Any camera will do. 100% agree, man. Great comment. Uh, I am a so you own two Pyxises and two Ursa City 12K. Don't know much about Sony for lenses shoot only narrative. What would you get for what would I get for E mount? So okay. What would I get? What three lenses would I get for an E mount? He's asking basically for, I guess, narrative. I'm assuming for narrative. E mount. Um I see, the thing with narrative is that narrative is very independent. It's very personal. Lenses are a very personal thing. So it's really hard for me to say, oh, for this is the lens to get for email. Because it's all because lenses speak to very different people. I could make the argument that the the new Zeiss primes that came out for E-mount, that because they're clinical, they're clean, and they're designed for the E-mount ecosystem. But I also could say, you know, that may not be what somebody looks for. You can look at the Cook SP3s that are also for E-mount. But the Cooks may not be a look for us. You can look at Thypoc with their Samara Cs. Every single lenses is very different. And even if I say it's like, okay, three focal lengths, I know people would say, hey, 35, 50, 85. Now, that for some people that's like, hey, that's sort of the frame rate, the lens option should go to. I will tell you right now, for me, I hate shooting 35. I don't like shooting 35. I don't like shooting 50, and I don't like shooting 24. I the lenses that I love shooting is 40 millimeter, 30 millimeter, and again, I'm trying to get 28 millimeter, and sort of like the 65, 70 millimeter range, and then like 110, 100, somewhere between the 100 and 120 frame. So this is one of the problems that I also have, is that it's like, what's the best lens? I was like, I don't know, because I don't know what you are. And if I could tell you what would be the best lens for me, but that may not be what you does. Again, because so many people would recommend a 35, a 50, and 85, and it's like none of those focal lengths speak to me personally. And it took me so damn long to actually find my voice. And I made a whole video actually about it, about finding my voice. But it took getting the Sony FX3 and the Zeiss Batis 40 millimeter f2 that I finally realized that 40 millimeters is sort of my focal length. And then something like a 20, 21 millimeter, a 28 millimeter. I love 30. I love this 31 millimeter from Dulens. I freaking love this 110 millimeter lens from Dulens. None of those are E mount. Those are PL mount, so they can use on any camera. But again, everybody's different, so it's not right for me to sit here and like say, hey, what's the best for Sony E mount? Everybody's different, because I know some people say 35. I don't like 35. I would never recommend. I can't say I would recommend 35, but it's just 35 is just such a weird thing for me. So so that's a hard question to answer for man. All right. Let's keep going. Hey, uh, JJ9, what's up, man? User JJ9, what's up? I'm 100% buying either the FX5 or Pyxis 12K. I really love the organic images of the Blackmagic, but all of the convenience features of FX5 are very tempting. How do I choose? Um, to me, it's a so that's a great question, and that's sort of what I hoped this conversation. I don't know how when you joined in, man. Um, just sort of a recap. To me, it comes down to workflow. Um, so so to me, in terms of workflow, do you work on productions where you are getting you're working with different departments, you're working with G&E, you're working with location sound, you may have a first AC in your camera department if if you're a DP. If you have those things, the Pyxis 12K is going to be the superior camera, because it gives you, excuse me, multiple video sources out. You can have up to like 4 different viewing options if you factor in the side monitor, which is actually quite, I know it gets shit on so much, but it's actually way more useful, way more valuable, I think people give it credit for. I actually use the side monitor quite a bit. Um, and then there's the EVF, then you got the Pyxis monitor, and that's all before you even touch the SDI that then could go out, where you could put out to a video village for one of your clients. So it has that ability to scale up, and it uses industry standard ports and things like that. Um, another good question is, are you in DaVinci Resolve as your Italy, or are you in something like Premiere or Final Cut? If you're in Final Cut, the FX5 is going to be your answer, because B-roll does not work in Final Cut, or you would have to do some sort of behind the thing back plugin for that. But Final Cut does not work. I'm sorry, B-roll doesn't work in Final Cut. XOCN does, if I recall, does work in the Final Cut. B-roll kind of works in Premiere, but it's very limited. And XOCN is, I think, a little bit more versatile in Premiere. And then both XOCN and B-roll work great in DaVinci Resolve. So again, it's also what NLE. So if you are not editing and doing work in DaVinci Resolve, then the Sony FX5 is the clear-cut winner for me. in terms of that. So again, it comes down to your workflow, and that's sort of what you sort of have to figure out. I so this you I kind of am pushing away against convenience because again, I'm someone who prefers to control and having the ability to really take home an ownership of the art that I'm creating. And that's what the Pyxis 12K does. But if that's not if that's not the type of filmmaker you are, there's nothing wrong with that. It's different strokes for different folks. If you are someone that really loves convenience and it's like if that's just your thing, the FX5 is the clear winner on that. But I love the ownership that the Pyxis 12K gives me. The sense of connected to what I'm filming, and it that's something and does it organically. Whereas you kind of have to sort of Frankenstein it with the FX5. So uh, again, hopefully that helps, man. Hopefully, again, you can always go back through the stream and sort of see because we go into a lot of different things. So hopefully this helps you in your decision because that's what this whole stream was all about. Uh, uh, Actually, so Dennis, I believe City D actually posted this, but the 4K actually is the best performing dynamic range performing resolution of all of them. So so the 8K and 4K is slightly lower. It's actually from Cine D's own testing. The 4K is actually the best one. It actually it's I believe it's like 13.6, 13.7 for based on Cine D's own testing. But it's not that they perform the same. I think it's more of the fact that depending on how you shoot, the latitude can benefit you or it can be a hindrance to you. Let's see here. Let's continue on. There's more conversations. Uh, uh, Continuing conversations about dining range. All right, guys. You guys are having a conversation. I'm glad you guys are. All right, so I'm trying to catch up. Okay. Mm, debating over FX5 over a Venice outperforms a Venice. Interesting. Let's see here. Keep those conversations going, man. All right, here we go. Why do normal people care about dynamic range? Like, explain to me logically, how does that impact your check or what you get paid for? I never had clients say, if only I had another stop at dynamic range. No, I think it's more of I think it has more to do with a confidence that if for some reason something's a little bit under, or maybe you're really pushing the line, if you have to like preserve the highlights and not let the highlights clip, and you have to push something other, that you have the confidence that you can recover uh, the information of maybe your subject being under, or if you have to preserve the skin and get the best stage for the skin, you can sort of have a smooth transition to the clipping point. So it's sort of like people. It's more of a confidence that you can that some people can have for delivering a good quality image. But to me, I'll be honest, that feels more like a crutch than necessarily something that's to be desired. Because at the end of the day, again, if you're I'm coming at it from a DP standpoint, and my whole job and my responsibility as a DP is to use the visuals that are happening on scene and happening on the shot to translate that into storytelling, visual storytelling. That is my job. And I have to use tools including lighting, including lenses, and a whole variety of other things to visually tell that story. So I can't say I am that I'm using my skills to visually tell a story if I give everything over to the camera and I'm just relying on the camera. There is a bit of a over reliance of high dynamic range. So that I do agree. It's like focus more on honing your craft. Don't worry necessarily about the number. I'm starting to get stuffy, so I'm sorry about this. Had to turn the heat off. All right, so let's see here. It will literally not impact a thing at your work. Not a single, not a single thing. All right. Yep. Yep. So, so they're working on FX5A for just to charge $500 more. Hey, they will increase. There will be. It will be an OLED screen. It will be an OLED screen this time, and then they're gonna update the Ethernet port to 20G. That's going to be the FX5A. This is just YouTube stuff in the real world. None of this matters. You know that to be true. Not you quoting Darth Vader. Not bringing Darth Vader into this. All right, so we still having conversations. That's good. All right, let's see here. I wish Sony had anamorphic ibis. I will give. This is something that I think Lumix. A lot of things Lumix. I think people get Lumix credit for that. I'm like that they deserve, but also it's just like a little bit over. The one thing I think people don't give enough credit for, and I've flat said that ibis is the most overrated feature. However, in certain situations, I will credit Lumix for actually providing like authentic ibis support. So I hear you on that. Uh, let's see here. We shot a national ad for Bear Furniture 65K campaign on the Pyxis. It aired on TV. It was more than good enough. Yeah, here's the thing, and I'll go a step further for you than you, Jammies. I had a campaign for the community college in Philadelphia. Not gonna put the number out, but let's just say the number was not that far from what you did for Bear Furniture. And we shot those on the Ursa Mini Pro 12Ks. The older Super 35 12K sensors, which did not like, if you guys know the dynamic range, they're nowhere near in terms of the numbers that they push. They're nowhere near as good as like a lot of the modern cameras that are out now. Doesn't matter. It still looked awesome. It still looked fantastic. And the client was happy. So that should help you sort of also go with your case, man. Let's see here. The only thing that matters is whether or not your check clears. The money is the only thing that matters. That's it. Uh, I so yes, but however, I also feel like there is look. This is an art form. The same, the money is the only thing that matters. That also I would be disingenuous of me because because then it's to me the craftsmanship and the art is also equally as important as the money, because there are so many people that are making money in our business and they're miserable because they're just feeling like, hey, they're getting their check and they're cutting clear, but it's their passion in the work is gone. Something that they had at the beginning is there and it's gone because they're not doing anything that they love. They're feeling they're not doing something as important. They're getting paid. They're stable, but a lot of them wish they were making films or making projects that were meaningful and impactful. There are so many times that I've had people come on for a spec project when I look for people and it's like, man, yes, I'll join because oh my god, finally someone is doing something that has some meaning to it and actually has some impact to it. So yes, money does matter. I don't deny that, but I also feel like money is only, just like dynamic range and all these other things, it only matters up to a certain point. The love and care still has to be there. Uh, so, so what? is a camera that does video like the FX3 minimum, but takes photos like a Sony A7 6 minimum, no, no matter the brand. Wait, what? I So what camera? So I guess he's looking for. So like, I guess you're asking for like the best hybrid camera that does uh f that basically the hybrid camera that does photos and videos. Um, I don't. I guess the argument. I guess the closest would be either the. I mean, there's quite a few. I mean, you got the R6V, you got the C50, you got the S12, you have the Nikon ZR. There's a whole range of them. I don't know which one is the best. I think it just depends. To me, it's an ecosystem. It is a workflow. I don't know. They're all about the same. So to me, so take your pick. The FX6 and kit lenses went to Sundance, got bought and turned a profit. I don't care about the dining range and of the Pyxis or any camera. I care about the money. Yep, I think we got. Yeah, I think we got that, man. We definitely hear all that. Uh, let's see here. This all right. We're getting to sort of like a tit for tat, so I'm gonna go skip past that. Ash Place, hey, welcome. Thanks for joining. Uh, I would like to know about a Pyxis 12K Pro ND version. Should I wait? I I don't know. Uh, I don't know what you're talking about because, as far as I know, there is no Pyxis Pro ND. There's no conversation about one. I and so I wouldn't. I don't think there's no talk about it. So I personally would not wait for something that I don't know exists. I never understand that concept of hoping that maybe something come that exists. Just if you need work, if you need a camera to do a job, go get a camera that's in the market now, and just learn that camera and hone your skills and hone your craft. The cameras will come when the cameras come. Like I like how it's like oh there's I don't I just don't understand. For me, it's more like the idea of oh my god, I'm gonna miss out. This new camera's gonna drop, and I'm gonna be so good. It's like, but you didn't take the time to actually learn the camera you already have. Until you should go in and master it, learn it, and see get everything nook and cranny, and then master it. And then once you've really cleared it out, then take a look at that option if that's there. Trying to chase the latest and greatest camera is a fool's errand. Like you just get the camera that's just right for you. And especially don't chase a camera that does not even exist. That nobody even knows. There's no talk about it even existing. This is just something that people hope and dream for, but there's no serious like relevance to this to such an idea. So, and this is someone who actually is in communications with Blackmagic Design. Uh, yeah, don't hold out for a Pyxis Pro. So still coming. I say the Pyxis 12K and 5K are great, but the ZR is way too flawed in many ways. It stops at GH5 levels. So okay, all right, Dennis. I think there's flaw. I do agree. There's a lot of flaws. I don't. Dynamic range is not as big of a deal to me in that range, but there is a lot of flaws with the ZR, which is why I never understood the hype for the ZR outside of the fact that it just had red raw. But I'm like, red raw is not even as. Uh, uh, I think red raw is has its own interesting things about it, and I'll leave it at that. I don't know why everybody thinks the FX5 image looks so much different, better than the FX3. Let's be honest here. It's very hard to tell the difference. It depends. I mean, it depends. Um, as someone who has shot, I'll say this: I did a color grade. I was a colorist for a short film that shot on a Venice, and I've also shot did a color grade for docs that shot on the FX6 and the FX3, and I have basically I've worked with Venices, I've worked with F. There is a difference in terms of how easy it is to get the tonality. Can you get them to match? Absolutely, but you're good. You're giving and taking. There is a difference in terms of that XOC image versus the H.265 that the FX3 has. Can you get to the match? Sure. Like, look, I think if you haven't, if you weren't here, I don't know if you were here when I did this. I have the Pyxis 12K right here. This is a 16-bit color camera as well, like the FX5, like the Venice. I shoot on the FX3 and the H.265. I do talking heads all the time, and I make them match. But it does take an effort, and you have to know what, or I should say, you do need to know what you're looking for, and you do need to know the limitations. So there's sort of give and takes for both. So there is a difference, but does the question is, but to me, I think that's the wrong question. I think the question you should ask Bill is, does the difference actually matter? Does the difference actually matter for you? Does the difference matter for your workflow? Because if the difference doesn't matter for you, so what if, then who cares if there's a difference? Let's see here. Uh, has anyone here watched Tangerine the movie? I have not seen Tangerine, so no spoilers. Uh, I'm actually going to be interested. I like watching reactors. So tomorrow I'm going to probably be just streaming a bunch of people reacted to Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, since Crunchyroll will finally put Infinity Castle out. So I'm going to be okay looking at people watch Demon Slayer tomorrow. Let's see here. B-roll toolbox lets you use it in Final Cut without transcoding. That's dope. But I also, but it is that. Correct me if I'm wrong. That is an additional plugin, right, Brandon? And also, do you have to pay for that? But just correct me. That's a third-party plugin that you have to put in. Correct? Uh, let's see here. Let's move. All right. If you know how to light your subject and understand your shadows and highlights, you are going to get amazing. That's yeah. Like it's basically like yeah. If you know how to light, if you know how to read levels, to me, it's like would I rather spend $5,000 on a new camera, or would I rather spend you know $100 or a couple $100 or whatever to get a quality monitor with EL zone? So uh, that's that's another option that I would like to look at. Because again, I rather have the ability to just be able to read and sort of figure out how to do my scene, and that will be more impressive to clients because it's that you could make the shots. Like people, we have made amazing films for like a quarter of a century, if not more than not. We made Hollywood has been doing quality productions for like a quarter of a, 3/4 of a century, if not a whole over a century, and with cameras that are far less, and that so many of them still stand the test of time because people had to work through the limitations and figure out those limitations. This is one of those things where convenience becomes is the enemy of progress, and sometimes we just need to. That's why I was like, sometimes being able to give yourself limits and set, uh, being able to set rules and set and adhere to those rules will actually make you a better filmmaker because it makes you create, it makes you think, it makes you work around any situations that may come up with it. Oh, let's see. Yes. That's a At the end of the day, if you're shooting a commercial, if it's lit well and controlled, you're good. No issues. If you're doing things in uncontrolled environments, yeah, problems. Even in uncontrolled, but I'll go a step further with you, Gems. Even in uncontrolled environments, if you know what you're doing, if you've experienced enough in uncontrolled environments, even uncontrollable environments are controllable if you understand. Like shooting outside. We all have smartphones. We all have there are apps on phones that can tell us the direction of the sun. You can there's this thing and if people just pre-plan, if you actually just plan things out, even in uncontrolled environments, if you just plan things out and you take your time, this doc that I'm shooting, I'm in post and editing right now for. Um, we were outside and the sun was harsh because it was not in the by the time we started filming, it wasn't originally where we wanted to, but we still worked with it because we were able to use an ultra bounce and just sort of get the light sort of where we need to be and change some certain things. So even in uncontrolled environments, you can still make them work. It's about planning and then to plan for things in case something happens. Like dynamic high dynamic range, frame rates, resolution, all these high tech, high spec features are not going to save you if you're unprepared. Prepare, the greatest feature of any camera or anything that you could have is preparation. You can't go wrong with FX5 and Pyxis 12K. You just can't go wrong, fellas. Yeah, you can't go wrong with either. Totally agree. Uh, do, 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 more conversation. Let's see here. Funny thing, I learned to blow out the background instead of using a green screen. More dynamic range would make my work harder. Thanks for the comment, Robert. Let's see here. Lauren Shear once said, the sensor doesn't matter, the shooting LUT and post pipeline matter. Rolling shutter is a big deal depending on the client request on certain things. You could make a movie with your phone and get into sunsets if it's good. Yes, and that's true. And also to pig and just to double down on that, I have been using my iPhone for a lot of my paid gigs a lot more than I actually thought. We did a we did a. I'm not into politics a lot, but I recently some y'all seen some of the posts I've made. If you follow me on Instagram or just been on my channel, if you're not on my channel, definitely subscribe. Uh, but we did a campaign video for Chris Rabb for his political primary. Um, and a few of those shots are on the iPhone. And look, if you pay attention, you could clearly tell which ones are the iPhone. But it was a hit, and he loved it, and it actually he actually informed us that it was one of the reasons why he won that the video, even though it came out late in the primary. He came to us and said the video he believes is one of the reasons why he won. So it's about really it's about the story, it's about the impact, and it's about the messaging. So if you know what you're doing and if you plan and you prep, like he says, you can shoot on an iPhone. All right. Con- Concise the Barber asked me if y'all had to choose a camera for 10 years ago to do all the work you do now, what would it be? If I had to choose a camera from 10 years ago to do all the work, from 10 years ago, so basically anything before 2016. Whoo, let's see here. That's whoo. I mean, if I had, I mean, that's tough. That's tough. But that is a tough one. If I all right, I think this. I think this was 26. I think this was 2016. I would choose. I would choose the Red Epic Dragon. If I had to choose one camera to do everything, it would be the Red Epic Dragon. Um, for everything that I had to do, like now it would sound that sounds weird if I had to do for weddings, but I'll figure out a way to make it work. If I had to choose one camera, again, one camera to do everything, it would probably be the Red Epic Dragon. That sensor was amazing. I think, yeah, me and Dennis sort of had the same thing. I was thinking the Alexa. I was thinking the Alexa Mini, but just given given the workflow and and sort of the different options, especially when it came to resolution, I ultimately would settle because again I do visual effects. I ultimately settled on the Dragon. So yes, but yeah, I was going between the Alexa Mini or or the Dragon, but I think I'm going to go with the Dragon. Let's see here. Uh, Picas, hey, how's it going? I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine, man. How's it going? Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw that. I did see that update about the R6V firmware. I don't do photos at all, so when it comes to photos, I really don't pay attention. But for all you hybrid cameras and stuff, that seems pretty good. Does the FX5 does do I think the FX5 will do 480 FPS? I don't know. Obviously that would only be in 1080, but quite honestly, I don't know if we would. I don't know if anybody would actually want that. Um, because you're at 1080, it's going to be it's not going to be great in 1080. Uh Pyxis well mount use PL adapter with a variable ND support. I mean that's what I do a mix of both. So what I have because I have one L mount lens. I have my 28 to 70 f2.8. I use my K&F screw on ND filter. For my PL lenses, I do have a Mofage Poco lens with the drop-in filter, and I use that, and it works well. Let's see here. I didn't know. Yeah, Wade County, man. Yeah, yeah. Uh the first time I really paid attention to Miami, it was the Christmas game against the Lakers. This was after Shaq joined the Heat, and this was the big because I couldn't because I hate the Lakers, and I can now say that I hate the Lakers. I didn't I was on an unholy alliance with the Lakers due to LeBron James, but now that LeBron is gone, t- fuck the Lakers. So I always hated the Lakers. So it was that game, and I think Shaq got injured that game, and that was the game that I personally got introduced to Dwayne Wade, and uh, just the athleticism and the way he would attack the basketball and the just he was just another level of a player. And ever since that game, I started following the Heat. Um, I've been a fan of them ever since. Uh, let's see. Okay, so 480 FPS says is coming in the future firmware though. Okay, cool. We'll have to see the quality of it because I even the 240 that I've seen in the 1080 now on the FX5, it's not impressive. I'm not impressed with it at all. But we'll see. Did you? Filming at 480% requires a lot of light, especially at nighttime. But I was just joking about my comment. Oh, okay. Let's see here. Uh, Yes. So it is a third plugin. So and it's $80. So I mean, look, $80 ain't that bad, especially when I factor in a lot of my Resolve plugins that I put in. $80 is not much, but still, that is a plugin that. So that's still a third party thing. It's not if something goes wrong, you have to hope that the third party fixes it um, to make it compatible with Final Cut. So at least it's there, but I, I don't understand why Final Cut, why Apple just doesn't put Blackmagic Raw in there. Let's see here. I'm gonna try to speed through these because I'm now realizing uh, it's been 2.5 hours of streaming. I've never been on this long, but man, it has been awesome that you got with you guys to stream and have this. This has been such a great conversation. So let's speed through these so I can try to catch up to this. If you still been here, you haven't hit the like, make sure to hit the like so YouTube knows. Okay, so it was in the interview. Okay, cool. Nice. Let's keep going. No. Conversations. You guys are having conversations. Great. Um, so, okay, he's asking you guys to talk about Ursa City 12K, which is awesome. Uh, let's see here. FX5 is going to be my new workhorse. Awesome. Oh, that's good to hear, man. I'm glad you found something. iPhone is great for low cost gigs. iPhone, yes, it is. iPhone is also great big big cost gigs. I've actually have like I said, I don't know if you were here when I mentioned this APC, but I'm in the middle of editing a feature doc right now, and a good portion of that doc is shot on the iPhone. I did a political campaign where a part of that is shot on the iPhone. Um, the iPhone, I think the iPhone is so, especially the 17 Pro Max. It is it is definitely gotten to a point where it's just like you can factor in some of these small caps or certain things where it's like if you want to film something and you're not sure about well, if it's releases or maybe you're in a crowded area, you don't feel comfortable with a lot of your gig, you could shoot with an iPhone. I think you could do a full A feature as long as you know what you're doing. You know the limitations of the phone or the app that you're using. It's a great tool to have. And my director loves the shots that we have on the iPhone. Now, medium format is fun. The Ursa 17 image is gorgeous. It is. It really is gorgeous. Let's see here. When we say uncontrolled lighting, we really mean uncontrollable lighting, as in can't be changed. Mixed or flicker lights at a wedding, ultra balance is controlling. Um, so Brandon, so I yes, in those situations, yes, I hear you. But even at weddings, but here's the thing, even at weddings, I use I bring lights. In fact, the company that I freelance contract that I'm an independent contractor for, they require me to bring as a lead videographer to bring my own lights to weddings. It is expected for me to bring my own lights. So even with weddings, even with things that may have control lightings, I'm still bringing control lighting into it. So yes, it's like it can't be changed. So no, I can't necessarily change the lighting in a reception, but I can definitely manage it with my own lights. That can still happen. Uh, so I think I think what you, Brandon, and what you, James, are sort of getting at is a situation where it's more no light or like there's no lights to be had or it anywhere, or you're working with really natural lighting in that sense. And if that's the case, then even then there's ways around it. It's just knowing how to shape light. And at the end of the day, that again, I'm the mindset of a DP, and the DP mindset is my thing. And that is the nature of our job. Our job is to shape that light. Even the Revenant, which is filmed entirely with natural light, they still found ways to shape the light. Whether if it's timing things at certain times of the day like that, they still like it's still shaped, it's still planned. James, I could tell what camera that would be for 10 years. The FS7. That's not a bad camera. I shot on the FS7s for several projects for like for some like online TV shows for a couple event stuff. Uh, the ergos was not my favorite. I was not a fan of the ergos of the FS7, but it's still a solid camera. The FS7, everybody's bringing up the FS7. Yes, again, solid camera. I I'm assuming you're talking about the original Ursa Mini, because I don't think because the Ursa Mini Pro was 2016. Because yeah, the Ursa Mini Pro I believe was 2016 or 2017. No, it was 2017. Because actually, one of my buddies we were having a conversation. The Ursa Mini, I believe the Ursa Mini Pro was 2017. The orig Now I believe Ursa Mini 4.6K was 2015, and then the Ursa Mini Pro was 2017. So the Pro wouldn't be, but the original Ursa Mini, yes. That's, 1DC, man, that bad. Talk about a blast from the past. The 1DC is such a it's it was ahead of its time. It was a camera that was way ahead of its time, but it was a camera that just came out at the wrong time, and it was not appreciated as much as it could have been. Let's see here. So going down. Let's see if I'm missing any other questions. Hey man, thanks. I appreciate it. Look, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Giannis and Bam could do. Uh Eric Spoelstra is my favorite coach, NBA basketball coach of all time. Uh, yeah, new iPhone is coming soon, but I, to me, I don't think I'm barring some massive thing like all of a sudden, for me to make a leap on another iPhone for me would be if every single one of the cameras are 1 inch sensors. That's not happening. But if every single one of the three cameras was a 1 inch sensor, I probably could consider it in a couple years. I'm not, again, no rush. What bothers me about the iPhone a lot is that the EDRs are painful to use. Android phones using Moto Cam Pro now have DG available easily. iPhones either clip early or shadows are grainy. It is. I totally get it, and I definitely hear you, man. It's definitely a dance, but if you if you know how to manage it, it also in post there's ways to hide the clipping point. There's a lot of ways to hide the clipping point to really sort of smooth it out. Let's see here. iPhone Pro combined with Blackmagic camera, you have a power a ProRes RAW with at a high work. Definitely agree. Uh, I'm just going to be honest on the FX5. I just don't see it. I and not a problem, man. It's not, again, not it's not for everybody, and but I totally get it. Let's see here. Hey, Wahi Tech Tips, what's up? Do I think the Blackmagic Pyxis 12K will get a firmware update for autofocus in the future? It is definitely possible. Blackmagic has look. Blackmagic has. I think I mentioned this at the beginning. They've already came out and said they're going to try to put continuous autofocus in the Pyxis 12K. The hardware is already in the camera. The issue is making that hardware work with an RGBW sensor. But they have said they are going to try to make it happen. They're not guaranteeing that it will happen, but they're going to try to. So, uh, do I think it will get a firmware update if Blackmagic cracks the code? Yes. So, If there's one thing I come away from the channel, is that James is afraid to ball out. Um, Thank you, man. I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know how I'm balling out. I just um I ooh, oh my god, this is I got stuff in my nose. Oh my god, that's yeah. I've been in this basement a little too long. But I don't know how I'm balling out. um, I'm just a guy in the basement, so I won't say I'm considering myself balling out. But I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. So So I think I've caught up now with everybody. So I'm actually gonna, because we're coming up on 3 hours. I was not expected to do almost 3 hours of streaming, but we here, and I'm glad we did, and I'm glad we've had this conversation uh with you guys. So I think I'm gonna hit the stream. I'm gonna end this. This has been a great conversation. Uh, Looking forward to again my video, all my thoughts on the FX5. That should be dropping tomorrow. I've also got a video about power and sort of diving deeper to help people understand power functionalities on cameras. Oh my god, my nose, and I need to eat. Um, but I have a video discussing power management around the Pyxis, and I probably will also do a video with a little bit of behind the scenes of the shoot I had both in Detroit and Chicago, where uh, focusing more on some of the tools where you have to sort of bring a lot more quality, but in a very limited space. So all that. So keep an eye on that. I'm gonna try to do more I can. So sorry, man. You got to come here earlier. The streams are at like 6 p.m. So definitely got to check it out then. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Um, as always, thank you guys for watching. And until next time, take care, everyone.